What's up everyone, Darcblade here with a patch information video regarding the 4th major title update for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. This patch is known as 14.00 on PlayStation 4, 14.0.0.0 on Xbox, and 14.00.00 on PC. The patch is released on the 9th of July, and it's going to be about the 1.4 gigabyte mark in terms of size. Now there is a lot to go through with this long anticipated update. So in this update video, I'll be going over all the new additional content it brings, as well as the various bug fixes and balance adjustments. So first of all, in terms of main additions and changes to Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Now first of all, they've added Alatreon to the game. Alatreon will be available to hunters after they finish the story of Iceborne and have completed the Safi'jiiva recon assignment. So hunters need to be at least Master Rank 24 or above. Of course, along with Alatreon will come new gear, weaponry, and palico armor and equipment. There is a dedicated guide elsewhere on the channel which goes into details about Alatreon, so check it out if you're interested. But next up, in terms of new content added, they've added Frostfang Barioth. Frostfang Barioth will be available in a limited time event quest. It's classed as a tempered monster and seems to be a much more aggressive version of the normal Barioth that makes use of frost binding attacks and more. Of course, with this will come new armor, weaponry, and palico gear and equipment. But that's about it in regards to main additions and changes for the monsters in the game. In regards to some system changes though, they've added a new melding option to create analyzed special tracks. This is a change to the Guiding Lands. Basically, you can go to the Elder Melder now, and you can craft these specialized tracks and lores for specific monsters. This is a great way if you lack a certain lore for a specific monster that you need. So it should help alleviate issues with the Guiding Lands a little bit more. On top of that, they've added new decor that can now be placed in your room in Celiana. They've also added new background music that can also be played in your room in Celiana. They've added new designs for your squad cards, and they've added a few new pendants. I believe these are going to be linked to Alatreon and Frostfang Barioth. But next up, in regards to miscellaneous new additions, first of all, they've increased the number of Screamer pods you obtain when combining Screamer sacks. Having Screamer sacks is always useful when you're hunting Diablos or Black Diablos, so this is a nice additional change. Next up, they've adjusted the Steamworks reward items received when ending the minigame in just one sitting, well, one match they refer to it as. So basically, if you complete the whole minigame in just one go, they've adjusted the reward items you'll receive. Hopefully this is actually going to increase the rewards. Next up, the Raideride core icon is now displayed on the item bar sorting screen even while you're in base. And then finally, they've added various upgrades to the following charms. You can now create a Draw Charm 3, which maxes out the critical draw skill, a Phoenix Charm 3, which increases the Coalescence skill to level 3, and a Fitness Charm 5, which will max out the Constitution skill, providing you level 5 Constitution for just wearing the charm. So that's it for the main additions and changes that come with this update. Obviously the big ones are Alatreon and eventually Frostfang Barioth, but the few other little additions are also welcome. Personally, I would have liked to have seen the Master's Charm being able to be upgraded to level 5, as they did with the Attack Charm, but that may be further on down the line. But anyway, let's move on to the next section of this update, which covers bug fixes and balance adjustments. Now, I do apologise if I drone on a little bit during this section, but there is quite a lot to get through with this update. First up, in regards to bug fixes and balance adjustments, are changes to the bases and facilities in the game. First of all, Capcom fixed an issue where the level effect after unlocking the level cap for some skills would not display in the skill info screen. Capcom also fixed an issue where under certain situations, the Safi'jiiva recon assignment would not appear for characters in the second save slot. So they're referring to if you created a second character or you created your first character in that middle slot. Capcom also addressed an issue that occurred in the Guiding Lands reward screen, where if the item box was at maximum capacity, items would be discarded instead of being sold. This shouldn't be too much of an issue for the majority of hunters out there, as most hunters turn in their rewards pretty quickly in the Guiding Lands before the item box reaches maximum capacity. Capcom also addressed an issue with some items being sorted in an unnatural order. They didn't specify what this was. They also fixed an issue where the game would not recognise that players have met the criteria for the research request, Velkhana's Icy Breath. Capcom also slightly adjusted the ranking of the Assassin event quest. The Assassin event quest is where you take on a tempered Naga Cougar, and as a reward you'll get the upgraded Assassin's Mantle. They've upgraded it from Master Rank 3 to 5, but this does not affect the quest itself, conditions to join, and of course rewards. Next up, returning to the Guiding Lands, an issue was fixed that occurred in the Guiding Lands section of the Hunter's Notes when material rarity for certain levels of monsters were not displaying correct information. They also addressed an issue where if the player uploaded photo data, the icon that indicates when a research request could be submitted would disappear. To be honest, I must confess I still haven't really finished all the research requests, so all these changes and bug fixes in regards to them I have not personally experienced. Anyway, Capcom then went on to address an issue where certain steps would result in the exclamation mark icon indicating an important dialogue would not display over an NPC's head. They also addressed an issue that occurred when editing squad cards where performing certain controls while selecting a card design would result in you not being able to select anything properly. This applies to PlayStation 4 and Xbox versions of the game. And then finally, Capcom addressed a bug with the Elder Melder where under certain conditions an unobtainable item would appear in the Elder Melder's list. So that's all the bug fixes and balance adjustments in regards to the bases and facilities in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Next up are balance adjustments and bug fixes in regards to the various monsters in the game. Again, there's a few here, so forgive me if I drone on a little bit. First of all, Capcom addressed an issue where a monster mount would not be cancelled when certain monsters were paralysed or put to sleep whilst in mid-air, so the player would remain mounted to the monster. Normally when a monster is paralysed or put to sleep, even if they're mid-air, they come crashing to the floor. If a player is mounted on the back, they'll automatically jump off. This should now be fixed and should work properly. Capcom also addressed an issue where the Wormstake Blast lodged into Safi'jiiva would disappear if you return to camp when you're using the gun lance. This is actually interesting, I didn't know this, but I haven't used the gun lance too much on Safi'jiiva, I must confess. Anyway, the next fix was to an issue where the rocks in the Origin Isle could not be destroyed while the host player was in the tent. This is in regards to the Shara Ishvalda fight. Capcom then went on to address an issue where the small size Moonlight Gecko wouldn't appear in the Elder's Recess. To be honest, finding all the crowns for the various endemic life has not been high on my priority list as of yet, but that may be something to do further down the line. Anyway, they then fixed an issue where Master Rank Kuroyaku and Zitsuyaku would not drop slinger ammo when their health decreased. Again, I haven't really experienced this issue, but then again I normally use light weapons against these bird wyvern, and getting them to drop slinger ammo via the clutch claw attack is kind of second nature. Anyway, Capcom then went on to fix an issue where if Kulv'Tharoth's attacks were cancelled under certain timings, only the damage hitbox would come out. So a fix to the bugged hitboxes there on Kulv'Tharoth. The next bug fix was to an issue where the rewards for breaking Rajang's tail would not appear in the results screen. Capcom also made adjustments to mitigate the occurrence of the clutch claw's hit and grapple positioning being greatly different on certain monsters. I'm looking at Rathalos and other flying wyvern. Capcom also swapped out the rewards for capturing a tempered gold Rathian in the Guiding Lands from the Elder Spirit Vein bones to Spirit Vein solid bones. Capcom also changed the reward items for the quest, put that red cup away from large wyvern gem to a fey wyvern gem. Next up was a change and fix to Raging Brachydios. Basically, when you tenderized and softened the monster's tail, the actual tip of the tail wouldn't actually be softened at all, and your attacks would still bounce off of it. This is not what it was supposed to be like, and now the entire tail should be softened and tenderized. Next up was a fix to an issue where the player would still be affected with abnormal status despite successfully countering certain actions from certain monsters. So hypothetically, say you were using the longsword and you foresight slash to counter a monster's attack, you would still be affected by, say, poison, fire blight, whatever, despite successfully countering the move. But they didn't specify which monsters this applies to. They also fixed an issue where under certain conditions, Raging Brachydios could be captured. It is very difficult to capture this monster, and now it seems that this wasn't intended and Capcom have removed that option altogether. Anyway, Capcom also addressed an issue where the Temporal Mantle would not be effective against certain attacks from Namiel, and finally they fixed an issue where Master Rank Kulv'Tharoth's Gold Mantle would not soften during a mount. So those are all the bug fixes and balance adjustments in regards to the various monsters in the game. Nothing too groundbreaking there, but it still irons out the experience overall. Now we're going to move on to player bug fixes and balance adjustments. This is normally to weapons, actual abilities, armor, so on and so forth. Everything to do with your hunter basically. First of all, they fixed an issue where certain weapons would appear unnatural when sheathed. This is just a purely graphical issue. They also addressed an issue where the Orion, Alpha armor sets and later armor sets where the arm part would display unnaturally when equipped, again another graphical fix. They also fixed an issue with the Kiara Pipe Water Hunting Horn, where the melody effect would stop even if performances continued. Next up, a fix to PlayStation and Xbox versions in regards to the Sword and Shield, where after rising from being blown back, pressing the circle or B buttons with certain timing would cause you to perform a backstep. This should now be addressed and ironed out. Next up, they made adjustments so that when using items in the custom radial menu, if the item does not exist and the materials for the high priority crafting recipe aren't available, the game will try to craft the items from low priority recipes if the materials are available. So hypothetically, say you are crafting mega barrel bombs. If you had the various ingredients in your bag, including the great gunpowder fish scale or the devil's blight, say you were out of the scales, it would try to craft the bombs from the mushroom instead. Anyway, Capcom then went on to address an issue where the values on the status screen when non-elemental boost was active, the values would not display correctly with certain weapons. They didn't specify what weapons these were, but it would have been interesting to know. The next bug fix was to your slinger. Basically, when you fired slinger ammo, it would fire in a different direction than the reticule when you were fighting Kulftaroth. They also addressed an issue that would occur when carving from Safi Jiva, where the default carving animation would be performed even though it's a special rare material. So just a really minor bug fix there, to be honest. Capcom also addressed a bug where the hunter would appear unnaturally when using specific hairstyles and armor sets together, so again another fix to the graphical side of things. Capcom then went on to address an issue where the item order in the item selection window would change when the Mushroom Mancer skill was in effect. They then went on to address a bug that if a player is equipped with a bow and then checks the details of a player using a bow gun from the player list, the status screen would display unnaturally. They also addressed an issue where if the player adjusted the item display on-off setting for fixed items whilst in a base, the item would be displayed at the end of the list regardless of the player's settings. They also addressed the issue where players would not land correctly when they hit a wall at a specific position. They didn't specify what this was. They also fixed a bug that occurred when the option Obtain Item Placement was set to end of the item bar during a quest. The Raideride core position would not be correctly kept. Capcom also fixed an issue where certain parts of a player's character would not be displayed at the result screen if they failed the quest or reset a quest whilst their head had a snowman on it. And then finally, for the player bug fixes and changes, I am sorry I'm droning on a little bit here, they fixed an issue that occurred during Safi Jiva's Sapphire of the Emperor or Behemoth's Ecliptic Meteor, where the visual effects of demon ammo and armor ammo would be displayed even if you didn't receive the effects yourself. Interesting to see that there's still bug fixes going on with Behemoth. Anyway, that's about it for the player bug fixes and balance adjustments. As you can see with this section, it wasn't anything too major in all honesty. Nothing really changed in regards to the balance of the weapons. It was mostly graphical and display issues that were addressed. But anyway, let's move on to the last section, which is miscellaneous bug fixes and adjustments. First of all, Capcom have addressed various typos in the game. Capcom then went on to fix an issue where after watching the Nature's Might cutscene in the gallery, starting the game and completing the quest Far Away Lorelei would cause the game to go mute and have no sound. It's interesting to see that the Shara Ishvalda quest still has bug issues that are being addressed. Anyway, Capcom adjusted the Scarred Yangaruga quest so that accidental starts could not occur during the quest, as the player could be put into an extremely bad situation at the start of the quest. They also fixed an issue where in the field palicos, where text displayed would not match the current situation. Capcom also addressed an issue where sound would not play when using stickers via the custom radial menu. And then finally, for specific miscellaneous fixes, they also addressed an issue that caused an application error when hosts were swapped under certain conditions during the Eternal Gold Rush quest. This is the Kulftaroth Siege. On top of that, Capcom said there were other miscellaneous bug fixes, but they never specify what these are. But regardless, that is it for patch update version 14.00. As you can see, it is quite a big one, but then again, there has been quite a gap between content updates. Of course, the highlights are Alatreon, and eventually when we get access to it, Frostfang Barioth. But as always, if you're interested in the patch notes themselves, I'll leave a link down in the description below. But what are your overall thoughts on the update? Leave a comment down below, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you a patch information video regarding the 4th major title update for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.